Well, hello, my name's Ralph and welcome back to the ongoing series on rebuilding this 4-speed transmission. Today we're going to delve a little bit more into it, so stick with us and let's get at it. So at least now we've got it all cleaned out to put it back in there. These spots are usually so dirty on a bike and they never do get clean. I want it so when I put it back in, everything is nice and clean and there's no grease or dirt or such on the frame or underneath the frame. Then it's easy to keep a lookout for any kind of leaks or anything like that that may happen. It just takes a little bit, but makes it a lot more presentable in the end, and it makes it look like you cared, and I do care. I do care about these old rides. Clean up my table here, then we can go in and have a look at the transmission and see what's going on. There was a bit of trouble with shifting. Something happened and I don't know if the transmission was low on fluid or dry, we don't really know. But it apparently has caused some hard shifting as well as the leak. So we'll go check it out. So now we got the transmission out of the bike, it's time to tear it apart and see what kind of goodies we got inside. It's always an interesting part and you hope you don't find something wrong, but you hope you do, just to see it. In any case, we've used this old piece of angle iron. It's just a piece like that we have, and we've trimmed it a little bit here. And this is what we use to mount our transmissions on so that we can torque and pound and beat and twist and whatever and mount it in a big solid vise. Because sometimes it's hard to get a hold of the little plate underneath. So we're going to go ahead and put that on our transmission. Now we just slide this on here. There we go. Just stick a bunch on here. We only need a couple of them. There we go. We're off the screws. There. All right. Tap on that too much. There's a small C-clip at the other end. Sometimes just a light tap. If you pound on it hard, you can actually break the C-clip holding that on at the bottom and you'll pull the whole assembly out through. We don't want that to happen and have to deal with that as well. Now, I need some 7/16 and a wrench, and we'll be able to pull the top off it and have a look. It's loose here, but it doesn't come out unless you had this assembly off. So it's another one of those bolts that is going to remain inside, and it has to be there when you go to put it together as well. So, they're full of little tricky ones. Wow, something's got that bound up. Just as he said, that should be spinning freely right through, and we're binding up, and we're not in the spots. Something, wow, something is bound up tight. So looking in the transmission, I haven't drained it yet, but I stuck the sprocket on here so I could turn it. And these are in the neutral position, so all gears should spin free that are supposed to spin free. This one's on the main shaft here, and they're turning. And these ones are turning here, no problem. But when we go to engage the other ones, which is by clicking that in, something's binding up or hitting. And I can't seem to get it to go in. See, I'm bound right up there in a spot. There, I got it cleared out. I'm gonna click it over to the other gear, which should spin freely, but it's not. No. So something happened, it got heated up in there, or it's hard to say exactly why the bushing seized, but I think that's what the problem is. So we'll drain it out and take it apart and have a look and try to see what exactly is going on in there, but I think that a bushing might have fried. Something's galled up, something's got it so it just turn and then it's hard to turn and then it's really hard to turn. So something's wrong there. We'll take it apart and we'll show you what we find when we get there. All right, so now we'll take the kicker cover off, for the lack of a better word, even though it's electric start cover. But it's the same thing. Even though we've dumped it out, it's probably gonna have a little bit of oil in there. Yeah, I knew we'd be goopy goop there. There we go. Okay. Now we need to get the clip out of here. There we go. Get the little C-clip out of there. Now we need to get the shaft out. There we go. Just push that out. Shift forks will come out. There we go. The plate comes off. The first thing we're going to do is get this counter shaft out of here, this little shaft right here. And it's got to go out that way because there's an O-ring on it. And if you try to tap the O-ring through, it'll come through, but it'll just make it hard. That gets the counter shaft out. Now we should be able to lift the counter shaft gear cluster right out of the case. Just like that. It comes out in one cluster. There is a washer on one end here. Fits in here. We want to make sure that we don't misplace that. And on this side of it would be the big gear spacer. There we go. And that's a big gear spacer like that, but as you can see, something's happened and it has torn it up. Should be fairly smooth on the side, and this one is all torn up. Down quite deep, I can feel it with my finger. Something went wrong there. Could have been the spacing for the cluster. It may have been too tight and caused it to wear like that, or the forces of something else binding up in here may have caused it. So let's try and get the main shaft out. So what we do is tap on the main shaft from the right hand side, just on the main shaft itself with the rubber hammer. You just drive it out part of the way, because inside the case behind the gear is a C-clip in there, and we have to try and get that C-clip out, and it's no easy task. So you'll have to bear with me while we try to get that clip. So what we've got to try to get out is a small clip, and that's in here behind this gear, and it has to be pushed up and then pushed out before we can push this whole shaft out through. So we've got it loose, and now you can see where it is here. It's this little clip. By sticking this in underneath there and trying to pry up and pry out with another one, you can get that clip started to back off. And now it's off where it's supposed to be. And that will allow this gear to slide this way. And I can always feel it binding there. And that will allow these all to come out. Here, the spacer rings and the clip and the shifter clutch. Wow. That's what's wrong there. This main shaft is worn way down. Way down, and there's a large lip out here. I'm down. Wow, a lot. So now that we've got things slid out, we can have a look at what's going on. And this here is the main shaft. And what's happening, you can't see it, but right here around this part of it, there's a huge ridge all the way around. 996, let's say, if I come onto it. 996 down to 986. So we're 10 thousandths of an inch smaller there. And what that means is when this gear goes on there, there's a brass bushing in here, and this brass bushing fits onto the shaft, and it's supposed to be close to that 997 size. When I'm right on the very end there, you can see there's a little bit of movement. But if I slide it all the way in here, I can wiggle this back and forth big time. So what's happening is just the end, you can see where the end of it is here. Just the end of it is on that size, and the back side is 10,000 smaller in there. And that caused a huge problem. I know from past experience that these factory bushings that are in here are cross-hatched and such, but they're one size only. So even if you put a brand new one in, it's not going to fit properly. It's supposed to fit to the size of the end of the shaft here. So I'm going to put a Jim's bushing in it and hone it out, and we'll show you how that goes. And that gets it close to a really fine size, because with that, it's no wonder that the oil ran straight out the end of the gear and was only stopped by this little seal in here. So that's a definite problem number one that we got there. So that main shaft is toast. This is, people call it your shifter clog. It's actually called a starter clutch for some reason, I think. Shifting clutch. It's a spacer for the gear. The gear seems to be all right, although it was sticking and binding up. I think that the shaft run out here, and that is what's caused the major problems. This big gear on the end, which I think is first gear, and you can see what's happened there. It's burnt all the way around, really burnt, and it's welded, almost welded. It's turned the needle bearing will hardly turn in there. The needle bearing is blue. And it's crushed the end of that right in. That's supposed to just be on there with a spacer. That's welded right to the counter shaft. Wow. Well, we're gonna have to have a look at that, just to show you how bad this is. trying to move it, but so that's about the end of that gear. This end of this shaft is blued up so bad that the bearing is hard to turn in there and blued up. So I'd say we're looking at a new countershaft gear. I doubt if that's round anymore. And that was seized on there. Very, very tight. Even the holding ring is blue. So, looks like a new cluster there for it. So I'm gonna have to sit down with the order book now and have a look at some things. We're gonna need some parts for sure. And I expected that, but like I say, it's always good in a way to find things that are blatantly a problem here. It could have got run dry in oil, and that certainly wouldn't have helped it any. Or it could have been a little too tight on the countershaft area and heated things up when it compressed in there. But I'm leaning towards being a little low on oil and got hot. So we'll go through it and see what the rest of the things that we have to get. And this gear as well. It is all blue inside and on the outside. So we'll have to have that new as well. One of the things we're going to get at today is getting the primary case sealed up. It's always nice to get rid of all those extra lines that are going back and forth. Plus, I'm not a big believer of all that dirty oil out of the primary case being sucked back in. Yes, it does go through the filter assembly, but I just never liked it. And it's a lot of extra hoses and a lot of extra mess that you don't need. So while we've got the primary off, we're going to do the primary today, and we're going to see about fixing fourth gear so that it is sealed and that we don't have this problem with it again. So we'll show you what we do and what we're going to do to fix it. Okay, let's go. So first off, we're going to start disassembling it. There's a fitting on the very bottom, so we're going to take this fitting out. Plug all the threaded holes. We'll use pipe plugs or 1/8 National Fine. They're 1/8 pipe thread to go in these spots. Over a period of time and with a lot of use, and as I can see right here, there's all kinds of oil there where the hose, which was connected down below, was actually rotting away, and it was contributing to the leaks. It's down in there below in a spot that you never get at. It's very hard to get at, very hard to see. And we're going to make it better for him right off the bat. Get that one off. Oh, that was hardly in there. And we'll take the hose off of this. I think we'll just put a small plug in this end of this here and hose clamp it down. And that will be out of the way and stop that one. There. Okay, we need a small bolt. Little bolt in here which will actually thread into the line. Hose clamp. I'm actually going to turn this line a little bit so that we know it fits in out of the way. are. Keep it tucked in there. You can do a bunch of different things with it. We can JB weld it and plug it up. We can do that, but should there come a time or a day, once again, the old Harleys never die, just their owners. When this bike is passed on in the future, and there comes a time they might say, I want to make this bike purely original like it was, we haven't wrecked the primary case at all. It's just a simple matter of taking the plugs out, putting new ones in, unplugging this hose, and then it's quite usable. Yeah, I'm going to get a smaller hose clamp for that. Now we're just going to tap. We get this part because we need the ring and we need the gear. We're going to be replacing the main shaft. And we'll have to pop the bearing out of that. So we need this piece. So we've got our fourth gear ready to go. And this has the original type of bushings in it and things that burn up, so I'm going to replace it. And what we'd like to replace it with is one of these, a solid brass piece. These are made by Jim's, and why I like them is I can press them in and then hone them out the size inside to fit the new main shaft so that we get a nice fit on it. So first off, we're going to try to get the one out from inside, if we can get it started here. Sometimes they go easy, sometimes they can give you a bit of a hard time. Wow, they come out of there easy. And as you can see, here's the original ones, and you can see how thin they are, and they're a split bushing, and quite often if you try to put them on a worn main shaft, it'll still leak out by it. This shows you the difference in the two. So now we're going to put this brass one in there. Get her started in there. So we've just tapped this in lightly to get it started to where we want to go, and we're going to push it down right down to this shoulder hits in there and set the depth. As we go, we're going to be machining some of it out as well, so there we go. There we are. And there we are, we're pressed down in there nice and clean. All right, looks good like that. So the first thing we do is put a 4-jaw chuck on there so that we can mount our fourth gear in there and have it run evenly. And now you can see by looking at the dial indicator, it's running on 0. There's no run out at all. So we have our gear perfectly centered up in our chuck, which is what we want. What we're trying to do is we're shooting for a 7/16 depth. Another 1/16 of an inch. Looks like. Here we go. Now we just have to cut it out to depth a little bit by bit. There we go. Just a nice clean cut, and we're right down to size. You can also see that there's no edge here. It's just cut the same size. We haven't cut down and touched this, which was the proper size. We've just taken 1/1000th of an inch off at a time so that we're just the right size. And our seals will fit nice and tight in there. That's it for that. Now you can see that our fourth gear is cut down to size so we can put double seals in there, and that will greatly help it seal up that area which is a weak spot on them. Now we're going to go along and hone the inside of the bushing out to fit our new main shaft so that we have a nice tight fit and with about 1/1000th of an inch clearance, and that should also help. We're also going to cut a groove in our gear now and try to fit an O-ring on it so that when the sleeve goes on it, that O-ring will be compressed and help seal up that area. There's not enough of a lip to cut a groove and put an O-ring in the outer seal, so this is what we're going to have to do. So we're going to go along and do that. So now we've got our groove cut in here, and this is where we're going to put our O-ring in here. There wasn't enough really material on here to put an O-ring inside of the spacer, so we opted to just cut this down inside, same as Andrews does for their gears. So we're going to take an O-ring that we have that fits in there, and we're going to set it in there. We should be able to get, no idea, although it'll probably be hard to see here, but I'm going to try to give you the idea. We grease up the O-ring really well. There we go. And we're just above the flat spots. If you go in there, I could just touch the O-ring there. It's just sticking up a little bit. Now you can see the O-ring in there, and this at this point does not want to push over there. You know, it's still being held out a little bit by the O-ring. So what we're going to do is just put this on for, where's one here? We're going to put this on for a spacer. We need our nut. If you keep your eye on that little O-ring in there, you'll see that as we tighten this up, start to put some pressure on it, it's going to force it over that O-ring, and that O-ring will be compressed in there right up to the shoulder. There. And I'm just hand tight. You can see that the O-ring is not sticking out now. We've got this here, and there's the shoulder on our main shaft, on our drive gear. So that's compressed the O-ring in underneath this. And that should stop the oil from leaking out there. So when we just loosen this off, we can see that this is compressed and stuck there on our O-ring until we O-rings compressed in there. So that should stop the oil from leaking out through here and through this by using that O-ring on there safely. Okay. So while we're on the subject of ways to make your transmission leak-proof, I'd like to point out these little spacers. Now there's a gentleman in New Brunswick, his name is Ray Dugas. I don't know if I pronounced it exactly right, but he's a machinist and he makes a lot of innovative products for panheads, shovelheads, knuckleheads. And he's designed up and he makes these spacers himself to take a small O-ring inside. Now, it's just an O-ring sort of like this, and it fits up inside the groove here that he's machined out. And when that goes on your fourth gear, here, it actually seals in this small area here. So the groove cut in the spacer has to be in just the right place for it to run on this spot. Now I found that I've run across a few gears that this groove is actually machined up in there too far and you really can't use this, and then I use the O-ring method with them as I've done on this one. Now these work very well. There's 4 or 5 different spacers that Ray makes, and I see on eBay as a bit of a problem with people not explaining exactly what they need. So be sure of your transmission, be sure which spacer you need, whether you're chain drive or belt drive makes a difference. There's a bunch of different little things. Now you can find Ray on eBay, and if you just type in shovelhead, panhead, knucklehead, spacer, O-ring, leak-free transmission, his product will come up. His handle on there is Saddlebag Rail, SADDLEBAGRAIL, and check out Ray because these work great. I make my own. I got a machine shop, so when I seen it, I had to try it, and so I have made them before, and they work extremely well. So if you're looking at getting one, get one from Ray on eBay, and you'll be very happy about it for sure. So now we've got our honing machine set up, and what we're going to do is hone out the bushing in 4th gear here, and we're going to make that so that it just slides nicely onto the main shaft with like a half a thou clearance in it. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to work on now. It takes time and patience, but it'll come after a bit. So it's a long drawn out process, so to speak, but to get it to fit right. But I'm going to work away at it, and we'll let you have a look at it when we're finished. It's well worth it to put those Jim's bushings in because they save a lot of problems with leaking, and I'm a firm believer on them. It's just a matter of getting them matched up proper in there, and hopefully it'll help be another step to trying to eliminate any kind of transmission leak out of the 4th gear area. So now we got it fitted. Just like that, dry. It's a nice even fit. There's no play at all. Just a nice fit. You get some oil in there. That's way better than when you just replace it with the stock bearing. You never get that kind of fit at all. So it's very important that way, I feel. So that was good to go. So that's basically got our 4th gear machined down to where we want it. We've got it machined in the end so we can put double seals in the end. We have a new bushing put in it, which is a tremendous upgrade. And we've put an O-ring on this side, which we hope will stop with leaking. That's the plan. I've had it work in the past, so I'm hoping this is going to work on this job as well. That's it for today. So if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do those things. It helps us to grow. And follow us along on this series of this 4-speed transmission rebuild.